Hello, above average people. Welcome to episode 1 of the Average Joe No More podcast. My name is Joe Scharnweber, and this week I'm interviewing Jim Simcoe. Jim is a business and lifestyle coach, public speaker, and best-selling author. Jim has been featured on ESPN Radio, NBC, San Diego Magazine, and the CW. Jim helps individuals discover their inner hero and create lives of meaning, of purpose, and fulfillment. Jim's book, Hero Up, and the Hero Up Summit personally helped me break down barriers in my life, helped me release my inner hero, and even led me to quit my job to run my wedding DJ business full-time. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a screenshot and send it to Jim at I am Jim Simcoe, that's SIMCOE, or take a screenshot and send it to me on my Instagram at Average Joe No More. I'll check back in at the end of the episode, but for now, enjoy my conversation with Jim Simcoe. Welcome to the Average Joe No More podcast, Jim. Thank you so much for being my first guest. I really appreciate it.
You got it. I'm so stoked to be here. This is great.
Since the Hero Up Summit happened, oh my gosh, almost a month ago now.
Yeah.
Can for the listeners that haven't been don't know you, haven't really followed you, can you just kind of give a general overview of what the summit was, maybe a little background on yourself?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I started the summit, like I told you guys during the retreat, I started it because I wanted to go to a personal development retreat or start one that I wanted to go to. And I saw a lot of them that were out there and they didn't combine the physical aspects of what I think you can learn doing physical stuff with the mental and the heart stuff. So we put those together, and I always like to say it's kind of like Breakfast Club meets Spartan Race.
Absolutely.
And it's been a long journey for me to create it. Spent a couple of years putting it together. Finally did it, like you said, about a month ago, and really enjoyed it.
How did you find yourself in the personal development space? I think you sold real estate at one time beforehand, right?
Yeah. So I sold real estate for a long time, and just through my own personal journey of everything I went through in my childhood, I got to a point where I really wanted to work on myself and my marriage. And once I became a father, I was like, look, I need to be a better dad to be a better example for my daughters.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of when I really dove into it. And what I really found was like, I didn't see anyone really doing it the way I wanted to do it. There are a lot of guys who were like, hey, walk on fire, follow me, I'm the guru, et cetera.
Foo-foo.
Yeah. Which for some people is fantastic. But for me, I was like, look, I think everyone is a hero and you have that inside you. And it's my job and it's my goal to be your guide to help you bring it out.
Yeah.
Like I'm not the hero on the mountain that you need to follow, because the hero on the mountain that you need to follow is you.
It's you. Absolutely.
I'm just the one showing you, saying, hey man, the mountain's over there.
Yeah.
Climb that one.
Yeah, absolutely. From reading your book, so your book, for those of you who aren't aware, is called Hero Up, and that's one of the things that really, really drew me to it, because it forces you to put a lot of the decisions and choice on yourself instead of other people.
Right.
Can you just go dig a little deeper into the whole idea of heroing up?
Sure.
I like the whole general, you're on the mountain, you're your own hero, but what does that actually mean?
What does it actually mean?
The lamest person.
Yeah. So my thing, you brought it up, but it's basically that when you are the hero of your own life, that comes with tremendous power, but it also comes with tremendous responsibility. So it's kind of like the Spider-Man thing, right? Like you're this strong, so you have all this power, but you also have a responsibility. And I feel like you have a responsibility to your own legacy, to your family, and to your beliefs, and to who you want to be as a man or as a woman. And that's what I really am focused on helping people bring that out of themselves.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think it's something that I teach you to instill in you. You already have it. It's just uncovering it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you already know it. Like we all know it. And I'm a big believer that there are people you should look up to in your lives, but you shouldn't follow them blindly. And so many people in this space want to be the hero and want to have minions who follow them blindly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I don't think you should do that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't follow me blindly or anybody blindly, because you're the hero of your own life. You're the one making the choices.
Absolutely. Do you think in maybe 2018, next year, you'll be doing more Hero Up summits? Yeah. Is it going to be pretty similar, a little different flavor? What are you thinking?
We're going to do probably at least 3 or 4 more summits like this.
Okay.
Because the response has been so strong. And really, one of the unintended things that has happened during this during this summit, what we're seeing afterwards is the bond that you and the other members have afterwards.
Absolutely.
And that's not something I was thinking was going to happen, quite honestly. Like I wish I could say I was a genius and knew that was going to happen, but that's been one of the most beautiful things, is to see like you're still friends with the people who went, and you guys are actively reaching out to each other, even without me saying, hey, we should get together.
Hold your hand, absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's really cool. So like I'm looking at creating a whole community around this, where we do 3 or 4 summits a year, and then we do a bunch of smaller events as well, and really build this movement up, because I feel so strongly about it.
I think that's wonderful. It was so interesting when there's a video that you guys put together for the summit afterwards, and I'll put a link to that in the video. But it was after the challenge that we did on the beach. Can you dig a little into that challenge? It was the physical aspect of the hero up.
Right. So we put together a challenge with, as you know, 10 obstacles, and everything from climbing under a maze to climbing over it to running down the hill to touch a flag and back, putting a puzzle together blindfolded, doing some balancing work, and then also just doing some CrossFit exercises. But in each one of the challenges, we wanted to attack it and teach people from a perspective of like, okay, this is just a physical challenge, but here's a curveball. Here's a team building challenge, because you guys were working in partners with one another. And then we did different things where in the instructions, we moved things around and change things. And so some people got that, some people didn't get it. We specifically did stuff to you because you're so strong and so fast. We were making up rules on the fly for you to make you do more, just because you're trying to elicit a response. So you're trying to provide a stimulus that elicits a response from somebody. And what was interesting about it was to see how a group of very different people managed to get through the summit successfwhily in different ways.
Very different ways. Yeah.
Somebody like you, huge smile on your face. You kind of were like, okay, I got to do it. You were super zenned out, which is what I love about you. One of the things I love about you, super zenned out. And you're like, look, I just got to do it. And you don't question it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other people get frustrated, but they're like, screw it, I'm just going to do it because I have to do it. And they use their anger to get them through. Yeah. So it's just really interesting to see those things, especially when you're throwing curveballs in.
I'll tell you what, as you kind of said, the whole Hero Up Summit was combining that physical and kind of other normal retreat elements during there. And I thought the challenge was one of the things that really kind of glued everything together for me that weekend, was that it was just like, you can have somebody talk to you and tell you to do certain things or think certain ways, but it's when you actually have to put those things into practice, is when that really kind of takes to the second level. Right. But the thing I was going to say was, at the end, when you shot this little promo vid, you had, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he took interviews of everybody. Brian
Mahoney.
Brian, yes.
Great guy.
And he just asked a couple questions that you probably told him to ask everybody. Yeah. But one of the questions, kind of to bring back to your point about the making your friendships and stuff, is he asked, I can't remember exactly what the question was, but the answer that I had no idea, like I was even going to be asked these questions, kind of just came up, was just the fact I said that I met all these wonderful people that I could see them being in my circle forever and me being friends with them for the rest of my life, kind of deal. And it was something I kind of just said, and I didn't even realize I was saying it, but that definitely was one of the bigger parts of the Hero Up that really helped me and really kind of took it to the next level. Was definitely just, there's so many wonderful people. And it's just the fact that I have seen Rachel, for instance, who is the thing, probably 5 or 6 times since then, and it's just like the coolest thing ever. So I appreciate that.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, that to me makes it a successful summit for us, because again, you come into the weekend not knowing some of these people, but then you're having this experience where 72 hours later, you can consider them some of your best friends. They know more about you than people maybe you've known for 20 years.
So true.
Right. And now you'll have that shared experience and that shared struggle. Like you and Joanna will have a shared experience of going through that challenge together and working together. You probably aren't going to get that in another aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm focused on it. One of the things I'm focused on with it is like, I don't think you have to wait 2 years and go through a bunch of stuff to get to that level. Yeah. I think you can do it in a weekend. Yeah. And you can do it with people you don't know. And you guys bore it out. I mean, you guys are proof of it.
Absolutely. Why do you think normal people, they never reach that level of connection with the other person?
Honestly, because it's too easy not to. It's so easy. It's so easy. If I see you and I say, how you doing? And you say, fine, I'm good, right? There's no You could tell me really how you're feeling.
Yeah.
But you're probably not
going to. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when you're in a situation like that where like people are being vulnerable and people are being challenged to take risks, it just allows for that deeper connection to happen. It's one of the reasons when we started the summit on Friday, one of the things at the end of the night, we did the lip sync concert, right?
Absolutely.
You guys all got
in
in costumes and came out and lip sync, I guess is the right word. Whatever
Close enough,
Close enough. One of the big reasons for doing that is to, again, get you out of your comfort zone. And when you see someone who you just met, singing "Baby Got Back" or "No Diggity" or whatever, like in a blonde wig, well, you look at them different, right?
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
You have that shared experience.
Absolutely.
And so I think in our lives, we can create those experiences for each other. But to answer your question, I don't think we do it enough in our daily life because it's too easy not to.
Do you think these sorts of retreats, or it's more opportunities to connect with people on a deeper level, do you think these will kind of increase as kind of the years go by?
I think so.
It's
I hope so.
Yeah, it's something, being from Iowa and moving out here, the whole like personal development, it's almost like a craze, it seems like, that as in San Diego and Southern California is something that really took me aback because I had like no idea, being from small town Iowa, that this was actually a thing. And it's mind opening to me. I know you're from the East Coast.
Yeah, south of Boston.
Yes.
Go Pats.
Go Pats. Was it that this kind of self-improvement stuff in your life at all back then?
No,
or
not
is
at
it
all.
More?
Not at all. And you know this, but I'll tell that story really briefly. So when I was in middle school, I was sexually abused by my uncle for a number of years. And at that point, borderline suicidal. Like, I remember walking home from school and going to the bus station and really not caring at all if I got hit by a bus, literally by a bus. And I buried those emotions for a number of years. And then right before I got married, I went to a therapist and I worked through it all, but I did a lot of it on my own. But my point is that I spent probably 20 years in which I didn't deal with it, and that shaped a lot of my life during that time. And I had a lot of shame and I had a lot of regret. And so one of the reasons that I try to do this work is so that someone like you doesn't go through that, and someone can learn from my mistakes. So I'm trying to take something that was a pretty horrible situation and make it less horrible, because if I can give that example to somebody else and you pick up one thing from my experience, then it's less horrible.
Absolutely. What do you think about the people that say, or it seems more like when people have this kind of rebound where they go from kind of the, as I would call it, the average person, the zombie lifestyle, they almost have to hit this like bottom point where it's like they hit that and then they go up from it. Do you think everybody kind of has to have that like bottom point of their life, whatever relative that is to them, before they can go up and become kind of this brighter self?
Not necessarily, because I look at your example, right? Yeah. So like when you first approached me about coming to the summit, I was blown away because I was like, here's this guy who seems to be killing it in his life. He's young. He's got a great girlfriend, great career going, the whole thing. And I don't think you were bottomed out, but I think you were at a point where you were seeking something. You weren't totally fulfilled. And there was a glimmer of something in you that said, I'm seeking something. I don't know what it is, but I know that everything I have now isn't all that. It's not all that. So it's not a matter necessarily of bottoming out the way like someone in Alcoholics Anonymous, they have to.
Or that kind of thing. Like
I think
Bronwyn when she came,
Right. I think it can help. And I think that story is impactful in either direction. Like if someone does bottom out, then this stuff is great. But I don't think you need to. I think the people listening to this podcast is, they're going to be...
Anybody can change. Anybody.
Yeah. And it's about improving your life so that you can be happier and that you can feel a sense of purpose in what you're doing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, after attending the summit, it's so crazy about, after really in this whole self-improvement journey, is that every day it's almost like you since your summit, absolutely, but it's like you've reached a new level. I've reached a new level of happiness. Aaron and I are closer. It's just, part of me wonders if people that haven't really discovered this whole self-improvement thing, or they're kind of okay with being kind of the average, kind of
they're okay with being okay.
They're okay with being okay. They don't realize that there's the happiness isn't a scale of 1 to 10. It's like a scale of 1 to like whatever you make it. Right. If that makes sense.
Right.
I think that's one of the things I kind of was realizing that before the summer when I joined.
Right.
And I think that really the summer really helped blow the top off that for me. So,
and think of like the things that you did. I mean, for your listeners, I mean, I don't know how many of them know this, but like you legitimately quit your job at the end of the summit because you're like,
true.
Because you're like, look, I can't do this anymore. I want to be happy. I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like blown away by that.
Yeah.
Joe and I, my partner on this summit, we talked about it today.
Really?
We're both still like, you know, when I tell people, they're like, really? Someone did that? It's like, yeah, because you embraced it. You embraced it and you really, dove into it. So good for you.
I'll tell you what, another thing I really pulled from the summit, and I think it's a good life lesson, is that people around you are always kind of giving you life lessons, let's say.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, if you're paying attention, you're going to get those. And even at like the summit where it's like you're supposed to be taught, there's like so many deeper lessons and deeper levels if you're really paying attention and really seeking it out, kind of deal.
And I think that's something that is important in everyone's life is that there's so many signs and messages around. A lot of things are easier than you think, if you're awake, and I'll use the example of during the challenge on Saturday in event challenge number 2, which was a really hard physical challenge. You remember, like, we gave you all cards, laminated cards that said, please read these instructions to complete this challenge. And it, had the things. And challenge 2 was 184 of air squats and burpees and bear crawls and push-ups. And at the bottom of each page was a waiver. And in that waiver, in the second to last line, it said, if you've read this far, you don't have to do any of this work and you can move on. And nobody got it.
Nobody did,
But it's a great example of like, sometimes the answers are actually easier and closer than you think. They're, which I think is something that's really important.
Absolutely. So, Jim, for people that are a little more concrete and really need certain steps to, let's say, reach their hero up, what would be things you would do like in your everyday practice that really help you to become your own hero?
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
The first thing is, on a daily basis, what I always recommend people do is write in a journal. First thing in the morning, even if it's only a paragraph, a couple sentences. I've been doing that for a while. Just get some of your thoughts on paper. It's not so much that the thoughts are that important to put in a journal, but it's the fact of actually doing that starts to awaken your inner hero, right?
Absolutely.
So that's something to be, it gets you a little bit more conscious of what's going on. I would do that. We also did an exercise where we wrote a personal manifesto. I think everybody should write that. And everybody should have that. Because you need to know, ask yourself the tough questions. What do you believe in? How do you choose to lead your life? What do you want more of in your life? What do you want less of in your life? All of those things. Those are the start. It comes really down to taking action and doing something. I don't care what it is. Maybe if someone is listening and they're, super reticent to personal development and they don't believe in it at all, okay, well, read one article online.
Yeah.
Listen to 2 more of Joe's podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, do something, take a small step and build on it.
Absolutely.
The things that have helped me is the journaling and the manifesto.
So when I signed up for the summit and your email list and some other things, one of the things I got back, I can't remember what it was in, but it was a PDF about, I think maybe it was confidence, but one of the things in there that I've did at the summit and did before was you'd write down your 100 of your accomplishments.
Yes.
Right? Can you
highlight reel?
Highlight reel. Talk about that. I love that.
Okay, good. I'm glad you like that. So highlight reel is basically you write down 100 of your top accomplishments. And if you're married or kids or have kids, it can't be like, oh, I had a kid or I got married, because those are easy right
ones. Yeah.
What that does, and one of the reasons I like it so much, and because one of the reasons I think it's so powerful, is like it's not a long exercise, but it forces you to look back at your life and really give yourself credit for things you've done. Moving from Iowa to San Diego, huge. Starting your own business, huge. Being in a band, huge. What happens when you do that, especially when you get to 100? And it can be stuff like, hey, in 8th grade, I was on the orange team for basketball and we beat the red team.
Small now.
Yeah, you would consider small.
Yeah.
But what it does is it shows your conscious brain that you have a history of success and that you have a history of accomplishment.
Yeah.
Because so often we're always focused on, oh, I didn't do this, or I need to do that. I got to get better at this. And we're our worst critics, right? Like negative self-talk is the killer for everybody. So when you do the highlight reel exercise, it forces you to think about your life differently. And then when you've got 100 things written down and you look at it, you're like, oh my God, like I'm actually I've done a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe I'm not that old and I've done like a ton.
Yeah.
And you'll struggle with it. I mean, you saw people at the summit. You struggle with it for a little bit to get to that number.
Yeah.
But it's a great exercise.
Doing it personally for me, it was interesting. It's kind of like you say, the first 20, 30, 40 are pretty easy. You know, it's things that most people and you consider big, but it's when you finally take that switch from this was a big deal to me. That was kind of when I found the second gear, and it's like, holy cow, I've accomplished a shitload of stuff.
A ton.
Yeah.
A ton.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it until you write it down. Then you're
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, like I'm way better off than I thought. And then the cool thing about it, I think, one of the cool things is like you literally go from before you do the exercise and how you feel about yourself, and then 15 minutes later you've done it and you're like, you just feel differently because you're like, wow, I've gotten so much more done.
So much done.
So it's not like a 10-day yoga retreat in Bali you have to get to that feeling. You get it in 15 minutes.
Yeah,
which is one of the things I like. High impact.
So I recently finished your book, Great Hero Up.
Good. Thank you.
I actually had Jim sign this copy that I read, and for anybody that wants this, I will send it out over the mail. Just let me know, email, whatever.
Awesome.
But one of the sections that really stood out to me was about friendships.
Yes.
And about you had a couple really interesting stories in your life about friends I don't want to say had to like burn, but more just like they don't really serve you in your life anymore. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah. Sure. So I think the story you're thinking of is I had a very good friend from college. I went to school in New York, and in my mid-20s, I lived in LA, and I had a very good, I just moved to San Diego. I had a very good friend come out to LA and then expect to come down to San Diego. Like I was expecting him to come down to San Diego to hang out with me. This is like my best friend, like my roommate in college, right? And so the whole weekend, I'm like, okay, when are you coming down? And he was with a couple of our other friends. And the short story of it is he never showed up in San Diego. He basically just completely blew me off. Didn't return any of my phone calls, and then called me that Sunday night and was like, I'm not going to make it down. And we got in kind of a huge argument on the phone, which as I think about it now, it just sounds dumb, but we got in a huge argument because I was really hurt.
Yeah,
and I was like, hey man, you're supposed to be my best friend. Like, and you've been 2 hours away. You live the other coast and you have not come down. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then after that, what I got to is I realized that like he's a good person, but at the time and probably even to this day, doesn't necessarily have my best interest in mind, and he's probably not somebody that I can count on, and that's okay. Yeah, and that's okay. Like I feel like with friendships is like you need 2 or 3 good people in your lives that like if you were like, look, if you call somebody up and you say like, I'm in a Mexican jail. I need 10 grand in cash to get out of here, and I need you to help me bury something. Yeah. You want that person to say like, I'll be on a flight in in an hour, and I'll bring a shovel. Like that, and you only need a couple of those people. I don't think you want more than that.
Why do you think then most people, they kind of seem to hoard friends? Like it's like the more
status,
friends,
ego, status. Like
so?
look at your Facebook friends, right? Yeah. Or like people on Facebook, and they've got like 5,000 friends or 4,000 friends. Yeah. Like really, how many of them are friends? Yeah. They're sending. Look at people who send status updates on Facebook at 10 o'clock on a Friday night.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we're all, we feel. Maybe it feeds our ego when you have that. Social media can be an insidious thing, as we've talked about before. You get everyone else's highlight reel pictures. They don't show pictures of them when they get out of bed and they look crazy and their hair is horrible and their breath smells bad. Like you get their best self all the time, and then you're comparing their best self against your everyday 24/7 self. It's not gonna work.
Not good in the end. Yeah. So another part of the book that I really, really enjoyed was kind of you talking about how you went from working this kind of cushy job where everything was going really well, and then you get into the entrepreneurial life where there was, of course, a little bit of struggle, a little bit of change. Can you talk about just that?
Sure. Yeah. So I worked at a tech company, and at the time I was making a ton of money. I loved my boss. Jamie Kenny, love you if you're listening. She's fantastic. I love the company. My team did really, really well, and I was about 30 years old. Okay, and I just was like everything
down San Diego. Right?
Yeah, I was in San Diego. Okay. Everything was going fantastic, but I wasn't satisfied. Yeah, and I just kept having this nagging feeling in the back of my mind. I was like, it's never going to get better than this in the corporate world for me because my boss is awesome. I make a ton of money. I have like no stress. Everyone thinks that me and my team are fantastic. Like it just doesn't get better than this. Yeah. But I was totally unsatisfied. Yeah. And I was like, I felt like I was wasting my potential. And I wanted to do something more than money. And I wanted to make something more than money. And I, at the time, and I still believe it to this extent, my mantra at the time was do good, make money. So it was like, look, I need to do good and then I'll make money. And what I was doing there, I was just making money, quite honestly.
I love
and
that.
so I left largely because of that. And I started my own journey, and it was hard. And I ate mac and cheese a long time. And even now, like there are times where like it's tough, but I'm never bored. You know, you have people who are like, you know, they wake up on Monday morning and they freaking hate Mondays and they love Fridays. I'm the opposite. Mondays, I'm stoked. I can't get in here quick enough. And Fridays, I'm like, oh God,
Sleeping
I can't.
like a baby.
Yeah. I sleep great. So I would challenge, you know, any of your listeners to that is like, how do you feel about Mondays? Because if you don't feel strong about Monday, then you need to think about what you're doing.
Absolutely. What do you think the main thing holding these people back from taking that entrepreneurial jump, or maybe that they want to start a side hustle or start their own business? What do you think is holding these people back?
I think it's negative self-talk and confidence.
Yeah.
I always say, you know, the goal to go through life is that you shouldn't be shooting for perfection, right? You should be shooting for success. And so like what that does, if you think success versus perfection, it allows you to make mistakes, right? Because most successful people make a shitload of mistakes.
Absolutely.
And to be perfect, you can't do any of that. So if you are able to give yourself permission to fail, and if you're able to have enough confidence in the ability to start, then you can do well. And figuring out what you want to do. Like you're a great example of it. You know, in the summit, you're like, I don't want to do this job anymore. I want to go do this other thing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, screw it, I'm going to do it. Like, why am I going to wait? And that's huge. So you have to be able to, I think one of the things that we saw in the summit with you is like your confidence level went up several levels.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you were like,
absolutely.
You got to a point where like, it almost didn't make sense for you to stay in your current job.
Absolutely.
Once you get to that, you're unstoppable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was interesting too. I think there's something to be said about looking at yourself a certain way and then having it validated by others.
Yes.
For instance, during the summit, we had, towards the end of it, we had everybody sit up front and everybody kind of talk about them and how they've grown over the weekend and how they felt. And
might have been my favorite part.
Oh,
what you guys were saying was so good.
But Joanna, one of the things she said was, "You're such a good speaker," and it's something that I have had in the back of my head forever. Like, I'm a pretty good speaker, but like as soon as she said it, it was like, I'm a good speaker.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden everything kind of locks in. And so that outside validation, even though it's, you know, you should be listen to yourself, of course, but that always helps to kind of lock it in.
Yeah. When someone else says it, I think it's huge. Yeah. And it'll bring up stuff, you know, that, you know, people will say something about you and you're like, wow, I never realized that. I never really even thought about that. Yeah. And I thought that was one of the coolest parts of it, is hearing what everyone else was saying about each other.
Back on your business, it made me think of I can't remember if it's a quote, but or something was over the weekend. But one of the things that really I took from it was, every failure is not a failure as you look at it, like kind of as like a learning experience. Yeah. Can you dive a little into that?
Yeah. So I feel like in life, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough, right? And failure, really, it's just kind of like feedback. I think somebody said that, like it's just feedback.
Yeah,
like, hey, this didn't work, so I'm going to go try doing this. And I can tell you, look, I've had businesses that have failed. I've had relationships that have failed. I've had careers that have failed. I mean, I've had surgeries. I mean, you name it, I've had it in terms of failure. But I'm happier today than I've ever been in my life. And part of that, really, in all honesty, is going through those failures and getting through them. And understanding that, like, okay, here's what I learned, you know, and then like, how do I apply it in my life?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Jim, as we kind of get closer to the end here, if you could have, let's say, one take home for that average listener, average person who's okay with being okay, wants to be better than okay, what would maybe one takeaway from maybe your story or just your life in general that would really kind of help them take the next step, you think?
Yeah. I would say to anybody listening to this right now, if you think of my example, I'm a guy who came from, you know, middle class at best means middle class at best education. I did not have a lot of things lining up for me to be successful in my life. I just didn't. And I've been able to create an awesome life. Am I ultimately successful in everything I've done? No. Am I super happy? Yes. Am I content? Probably not. Like there's a lot more I still want to do. Yeah. But I would tell anyone who's listening, like, look, you don't need to be some swashbuckling guy with 3% body fat who went to Yale and has, a trust fund to go start a business. Mm-hmm. You can be a guy who, doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but feels passionate about something, because you'll figure it out. Yeah. You will figure it out, and never stop learning and never stop trying to improve yourself.
Yeah. Well, Jim, thank you so much for being on. If anybody wants to reach out to you, kind of get a hold of you, ask you a couple questions, where's a good place to do that?
Best way to do it is go to the website, which is jimsimcoe.com, JIMSIMCOE. Okay. And then they can also email me at jim@jimsimcoe.com.
Awesome. And then the book you can just grab off of Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's called Hero Up, Unleash Your Inner Hero and Make Life Epic. You can also go to heroupthebook.com as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it, man. Great being here.
That is it for the first episode of the Average Joe No More podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, share it with your friends, and also leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It means a lot. New episodes will be released on your favorite podcast platform, and videos will be released every Friday on YouTube. So make sure to check back in next week. I'll talk to you later, above average people.